So welcome everyone to Wellness Spring. Today I'm really blessed to be with a truly special lady who's so dynamic and her fates are truly extraordinary. Her name is Metra Lundy. She is an author of Detox for Life and a well sought after speaker, coach, and the CEO and owner of Kinetics Personal Training Group and Fitness. And I know from Little Birdies that she actually saved her life. And I am so grateful to a communal friend, Marie Shanahan, for introducing us. So welcome everyone, and welcome Metra to Wellness Spring podcast.
I'm so glad to be here with you, and I'm so glad to be with your audience. So thank you.
Thank you. And before we delve into your absolutely amazing achievements, could you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, your family, your education, and so forth?
Sure. So my name is Metra Lundy, and I live in the United States. I live in New Jersey, in central New Jersey. I was born in central New Jersey, but I've lived a couple of places, southeast primarily. But I'm in New Jersey right now, and I am a mother. I have two beautiful daughters, one who's 29 years old. She actually just turned 29 in June. And I have another daughter who's 24. So I'm so very proud of my young women. I don't call them girls anymore. I call them young women because that's what they are. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business for myself for the last 14 years. And I wear many hats as an entrepreneur. Those entrepreneurs out there, we do a lot of different things. So day to day, I am at my fitness studio coaching and training clients, but I also have a staff of 10. And in 2019, I self-published my first book called The Detox Life. And in 2020, I produced a documentary called A Walk in Her Shoes. And I do quite a bit of speaking. I actually have my first international speaking opportunity in Kenya in September. So that's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you covered a lot there. What did your parents do? And did you always want to be in fitness and health and so forth?
Sure. So I think it's interesting. Usually the things that we decide that we're going to do with our lives is completely different than what we choose when we're young. I was young, and just like everybody else, maybe I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to, at one time I wanted to be a midwife. And so that, as a child, those were my childhood dreams. But looking back on that, it was really my grandmother who made a really big impression on me in being in the fitness industry. My grandmother was an amazing woman who raised 8 beautiful daughters. She was from South Carolina. And she raised her daughters with her husband, Russell Donald. But my grandmother was, for most of her adult life, for as long as I knew her, she was overweight and had a lot of health issues. I would see her bring out her pill box, and in the pill box, there were 10 pills in each one, and I'd help her sort it all out. And so I grew up watching her take the pills, but also my grandmother was tragically killed in a fire, and she died from smoke inhalation because she was physically not able to get herself out of the house. And that really made a huge impression on me. I subconsciously made a decision that I wanted to be in really great shape. I wanted to be able to take care of myself and my body. And I wish my grandmother would have been able to get herself out of that house. But I also wanted it for my family. So her daughters and my children and nieces and nephews, I have a really big family. And so when there are family functions, I am the one who talks about health and wellness. I am the one who's at the, Thanksgiving meals, telling everyone that we need to go for a walk before or after the meal. So I hold that responsibility in my family for making sure that everyone is paying attention to their health and wellness. I hold that really as an important role that I play. And so my grandmother made the biggest influence on me being in the fitness industry and just being in health and wellness. So.
Oh, thank you. Firstly, I would like to honor your grandmother, and I'm so sorry for her tragic transitioning, because, it must have been horrifying to die from inhalation of the smoke and see the flames and everything around you.
Yeah.
As regards large family, I'm from a large family as well. So I was one of 6, and, so you can imagine what it's like. And like you, I'm the only one into health and wellness. So I played that role as well. So it's good to know we got that in common. And you covered a lot. And I know I read that you saved your own life. Like, what was wrong with you? What symptoms did you have? Because I put on the little reel yesterday. One of my nieces was in and out of hospitals, and the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with her. She had pains in her tummy, that she had magic eyes here, there, and everywhere. They couldn't find anything wrong. And then she read an article on FODMAP, and it's all about having too much fructose. And she took the initiative because she'd seen so many therapists, so many doctors and specialists. She changed her diet to a low FODMAP diet, and she's like a new person.
Wow.
Like, she's changed her life just by not having fructose. And I didn't ask Marie, and I haven't asked you. I'm just curious,
Wow.
what was going on in your life?
Sure. So I really believe that there are significant moments in our lives that mark either a transformation or a moment where or moments when we're just stagnant. And in 2018, I went through it began a huge transformation for me and for my life. My daughters had moved out, so I was at the beginning stages of being an empty nester. And I'm one of those individuals who is very calculated. And so coming out of high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I organized it all. And so you grow up with this identity. And so I was very certain about my identity up until 2008. By this time, I already have a fitness facility. I am, I've been in business for many years. I've been a mom for many years, and I've been a wife for many years. And in 2018, it felt like I wasn't the same kind of mom. So my daughters had left. My youngest daughter, she struggled with some mental health issues. So it was very difficult for about 10 years of her life. But at 18, she got herself together and they both moved out. Well, simultaneously, I experienced a major health scare that I had to have surgery for. It was cancer related. And I was also in the middle of separating from my husband. And so these 3 major things took the certainty that I had and really just threw it out the window. So, I had the physical, the physical sort of challenges, just managing the big C. And, I give a lot of credit to individuals who are able to go through that, pre-diagnosis, diagnoses with a clear head, because you worry about every part of it. And then to do that with your personal life on the rocks, while managing. I had a business, and so I had to put on my face and still be a coach. I had to still show up at work. I had to still manage my staff. And so it was very difficult from 2000 and at the end of 2017 through 2018. And I really had, Beverly, I really had a decision to make. I was depressed, and I can say that now, but at the time I was very ashamed of that. But my clients would have never known. Nobody would have ever known. And I got to a point where I was either going to lay still or do something. And I chose to do something. And the documentary that was born was rooted in that sort of life transformation. I chose to follow in the footsteps of a freedom seeker. And by freedom seeker, I mean an individual who at one time was enslaved and sought her freedom. Her name was Harriet Tubman, and she traveled from the Southeast. She was born in Maryland. She traveled to Philadelphia initially to gain her freedom, but eventually had to travel further north. So she found herself in Canada. But not only did Harriet Tubman free herself, she went back many times, they say between 11 and 13 times, to bring her family into freedom. Harriet Tubman is also significant because she fought for the Union Army, and she was a nurse. She was a spy. She was a general. She was a woman who won. She took a group of soldiers, Black soldiers, into a raid called the Combahee River Raid, and she won that particular battle or raid without any casualties. And she wound up freeing over 700 enslaved people. And so, in my mind, at my lowest point, I thought, if I was going to do something to save my life, it couldn't be a small thing. I had to really reach out and extend myself if I was going to make it through this time. And pain is a remarkable motivator. When we suffer, it challenges us to move. And so I decided in 2019 to take that journey, and it happened between June and August. I traveled from the eastern shores of Maryland to St. Catharines, Canada, and the total mileage was 695. And what's so funny is that I walked 245 of those miles. But I was completely prepared and ready to walk the entire 695. But what happened was, in the middle of me trying to figure out myself, I got a better understanding of Harriet Tubman. And it turned out that she didn't walk 695 miles, that she took many modes of transportation, including trains and wagons, and she got help from a bunch of people. And so that single decision to walk from Maryland to Canada has inspired me to learn more about world history, to get a better understanding of my own potential and what my purpose is on this earth. And so, I'm alive, I'm well, and I'm ready to do the job that's been given for me to do. And so I do that to the best of my ability every single day.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Oh my Lord. So you were down in the dumps, you were very rock bottom low with these three major things happening in your life.
Mhm.
And obviously, you know, I'm not sure what support team you had around you because you were an empty nester and going through the divorce with all the cancer and everything happening. And then at one of your lowest points, you decided to make this documentary. But what was your experience in film producing and everything? Because I know I've watched the trailer and it's incredible. And thankfully you got to make it before COVID lockdowns, you know, because who knows what your pathway. But when you were thinking, what can I do? What came into your head? How did it come? Who or what inspired you to make this documentary?
Sure, sure. So I didn't set out initially to produce a documentary. I was in I was at a low point. And you know when you're at a low point and you're scrambling and you're like
Yeah,
trying to figure out day to day, how do I get through the next moment? I remember, and this is so I'm giving it some weight because I'm a very independent person, and for any of the independent people out there, we don't necessarily reach out for help. I remember calling my sister in between each client and saying to my sister, you know, I don't really have anything to say, but if you could just be on the phone with me for a little while longer, I can feel whole enough until I see my next client. And even the thought of it right now makes me a little bit teary-eyed that I felt so unlike myself. So I didn't start out deciding that I was going to produce a documentary. I decided I have to do something. And my clients are really remarkable and really wonderful humans, and they care about me. And so I didn't want to abandon them and do another project. So I decided to be vocal about what I was doing, sort of step into my own integrity because I wanted to make sure that I didn't drop the ball in any way. And I wanted to let them know what was going on. And what I didn't realize is I didn't realize that other people really honored and respected Harriet Tubman. So when I started talking about her, folks were interested. And I said to the one of my former staff, Selena, who was the director of the documentary, but she was working for the fitness facility. I said to her, I'm not sure what we're going to do with uh, this, but I'd like for you to come along on the journey, and I'd like for you to take some photos and some videos, and let's see what happens. And she was kind enough to agree to that. I had a client who was also going through a really tough time. She appears in the documentary. Her name is Kim. And Kim and I were on the phone. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday. And I was talking to Kim and I was saying that, you know, we needed to do something. And, you know, Kim threw out a bunch of ideas. I threw out a bunch of ideas. And we settled on this is the best way to get through this time. And initially, we were just going to trek from Maryland to Philadelphia. But I had this dream that I went to sleep and I dreamt that we made it all the way to Canada. And Kim was on board with that. And we recorded everything and documented everything. Once I got back and the journey was complete, so I started it June 27th alongside of Kim, but eventually Kim and we actually have to separate. And part of the documentary talks about why we separated, what that separation was like. It was very difficult. But the journey comes to an end in August. And once the journey comes to an end, I'm not certain during the journey, at the start of the journey, whether or not what I was doing was going to make me feel better. I was sort of just throwing the rock in the water and just saying, like, I don't know, is the rock going to skip? Let's see what happens, hoping that I would feel better. And in September, October, I had all this footage and really had no experience in producing a documentary. But I did my homework, and Selena was there. She had majored or minored in film. So she and I started storyboarding, and sort of gave the story some legs and some direction. And we worked together for several months, and then I decided, well, I'll put it out to a few film festivals, and it was accepted to socially relevant films in March of 2020. And it was chosen out of like 600 films. The film was one of 20. And then it won an award. It won the IndiePix Vision Award. And I got contacted by one of the IndiePix agents, with Selena and I sitting in the room and listening to the award ceremony. And when they call out our film, we both looked at each other, and we were sort of in awe with the entire process, because Selena had done portions of the walk with me. And she also appears in the documentary. She had a very emotional experience of her own, and that she appears towards the end of the documentary. And IndiePix, as a part of the award, gave us worldwide distribution. And so that is how the documentary was born.
Wow, that's an absolutely, truly inspirational, motivational story. And, for the listeners, if you're thinking of doing something, take tips from the lovely Metra and just get out there and do it. Don't hesitate, just do something.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. And, I've read Harriet's story over the years a few times, and she was just a truly remarkable lady. And I personally was wondering, because I've dabbled with acting, or, because I work with psychiatry and psychology, you enter the role. I was wondering whether, if you felt that you were walking the actual steps of Harriet and how that affected you or not.
Sure. So, not as an actress, I would say. One of the really beautiful things that happened to me while I was on the road, it felt as if my spirit opened, and I became this. I got this instant connection to an energy I had not had access to prior. There's something about being out and being on the road and being alone and having to reconcile with yourself. I was grieving, and so it felt like I was going through all of the stages of grief. But then I'm also thinking about Tubman. I'm thinking about the other freedom seekers who had lived a life of enslavement, and how difficult it must have been for them to live under those conditions. And I thought about the first enslaved folks who were, crossed the transatlantic or across the Atlantic Ocean, and were dropped off in this new land with this new language, and basically were told to work. And then they worked and died, and that was the end of them. And so I had the energy of those people in my thoughts and in my body, while simultaneously coming into my own awareness. I've been coming into myself. And so I don't think it wasn't that I felt like Harriet Tubman. It was that I could feel Harriet Tubman, and I still feel her. Actually, and it's not like she speaks to me in my ear. It's like she speaks through my heart. And when a thought pops up and she's there, I was like, okay, we're still communicating. And it's amazing. And she comes to me, but there are other people who also come to me. And so I feel really grateful to be able to be in touch with that energy and that level of awareness. And I really have to give so much gratitude to the journey itself, because the connection between the physical movement and the energy that was happening inside of me, it's been explosive, it's been expansive. And so part of that is the reason why I really believe in people moving, because magic can happen, but you've got to be willing to do the work. And I am so much clearer now and so much more willing and obedient in what I know that I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm grateful.
Wow. Wow. Yes, because I know when you're in the energy field and you're in that zone, you embody it. You can't do otherwise. You become that person, regardless whether you're, someone in the peripheral or the key people, because that energy is swirling around. And to just honor such a great person, I'm very grateful for you for doing it, and to inspiring millions, because this is brilliant, the work that you're doing. And I totally agree with you about movement as well. We embody something and then we have to shift the energy, and the only person that can do it is yourself, as 100%. And I know you've also written a book, because I'm not sure you've had all your clears for the cancer, and health-wise, I'm sure you're keeping an eye because you're the wellness person in the family. And would you like to tell us about your Detox for Life book?
Sure. So great news. I have a clean bill of health. So I am really, really grateful for that. I wrote the Detox Life in 2019. And then the documentary was born in 2020. So they were happening simultaneously. And I make that point because initially I said, we have several times in our lives that I think magic happens, major transformation happens. And some of us were aware of it, and some of us blow it off. We ignore it. We don't want to do the work. And I'm so grateful that I didn't ignore it, that it was in my face so much so that I had to do it. And the Detox Life is a book of tools. They are the tools that I've used for myself, but also ones that I've used from my clients who've shown me this is how I get through negative thinking. This is how I get through horrible eating. This is how I manage the way I live, like having a healthy lifestyle. It's everything that I do regularly to check myself. So everything from, dry brushing my skin as a way of cleansing the largest organ, to the books that, I read. There are a bunch of stories in there about my clients and how they've struggled to lose weight and how they finally were able to lose the weight and keep it off. There are recipes in there, some of my favorite raw vegan to pescatarian recipes in there. So the book is my voice. It's me on the shoulders of all of the listeners right now. It's just saying, like, you've got this. You've got no other choice but to live your life. And it's your duty to come into your own awareness. All right, you feel weak today, it's okay. Tomorrow, get back up, get back on the wagon. Drink the water. You need water. Reduce the sugar. That stuff's no good for you. So put that to the side. Here's the workout. There are 4 workouts that take place over the course of the 4 weeks. So it's a 4-week guide. And every week I give a new workout. And there's everything in there that pulls from functional training. So how to squat, how to hinge, how to push, how to pull. And so there are tons of things that clients who are like, oh, or individuals who are like, oh, I don't work out, I don't know what to do, they could at least start to look at the pages and say like, okay, this doesn't look too difficult. She wants me to balance on a single leg. I could do that. To the person who's like, yep, she's asking me to do 30 push-ups, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so the Detox Life is a 4-week guide to helping clients better take care of themselves in a way that jumpstarts them.
Wow, I can't wait to read the book. I'll have to buy it because I'm traveling in a van around Australia, and I can do squats and things like that, inside the van. And I like to have a routine. So I guess that will get me back on track, because I've exercised or danced most of my life. So sometimes it's challenging when the weather's raining, or you're in rocky grounds, or you haven't got smooth land outside to do the exercise. So yeah.
So the book can be purchased on Amazon, so anybody can get it. And what's nice, Beverly, is that some of that stuff you can probably do right in the van, laying flat on your back. There are core exercises that you don't even have to step foot out of the van. You can do it right in the van. So it's available.
Great. And I also want to ask you about your kinetics business. Mm-hmm. What motivated you to start that?
Sure. So Kinetics is my fitness facility. I've been a fitness business owner for 14 years. It's so odd for me to say 14 years out loud because it seems like yesterday. I've had a brick and mortar for 12 years. And at my facility, I service primarily women between the ages of 30 and 65. But I also have some men who come to the facility, usually by way of their wives. Their wives usually want them to, or their partners usually want them to adopt a healthier lifestyle. But I'm proud to say that my oldest client, his name is Peter. Peter is 100 years old. And so he trains twice a week. He never misses. He never misses. And he inspires not only me, but all of the clients who interact with him to be better and to show up for ourselves. So we had a big party for him last October. So he's hopefully we get to celebrate in the same way this coming October. He'll be 101.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've got a friend who's 104, and he's not physically fit because he's partially blind in one eye and blind in the other eye from a fall. But mentally he's so alert, and the stories he tells, he's still mentoring business people. And I think it's really important to surround yourself as well with positive people.
Absolutely. And Peter, and just like your friend, he has all of his wits. Peter told us during his party that he had just come out with his 66 of his best essays had just been compiled into a book. And I just thought, like, this is remarkable. At 100 years old, you're still producing work. You are still engaging with people of many ages, and we can still learn from him. And I think, wow, like what a blessing to be able to be in his company.
Absolutely. And I just want to quickly go back to the dry brushing, because I've been doing that for several years, and I preach it to everyone, because people say, can I do it in the shower? No, it's a dry brush for a reason. And you're going to get rid of all the toxins that have you can't see with the naked eye, that you've been expelling overnight. Mm-hmm. And because you don't want them to go back into your lymphatic system and your circulation. And I'm like, it's such a great way to wake up your day with, waking up your nervous system, your lymphatics, brushing your skin. And as you know, it makes your skin silky smooth like a baby's bottom. So
Good. It's
So
so good. Wait, Beverly, we have to high five because I have not met a fellow dry brusher. It's great.
it sounds like we've got a lot in common because I'm also vegan and I also cured my own thyroid and ovarian cancer. But I did mine naturally through laughter. I went to, when I got the diagnosis, they wanted to rush me in straight away. And I was like, no, no, no. I was just happy to get a diagnosis because I'd been seeing so many people. But once they diagnosed me, I knew the exact time when it happened and the reason, because I'd overstretched myself and a friend had let me down, and the list goes on. But then we were going to watch the British Lions tour in New Zealand. And when the doctors wanted to rush me in, because I was like a pin cushion, I had magic eyes, this, that, and the other. And I said, no, I need to get my head around it. I'm going to go away for 2 weeks and then I'll see you when I get back. And they were giving my partner, the oncologist, gynecologist, the endocrinologist, they were all giving my partner the mobile phone numbers and trying to get him to dissuade me. But of course, I went away, had so much fun, laughter, singing, using crystals, getting healings. When I came back, it was completely gone.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I had three monthly checks, and then my Reiki master said, Beverly, what are you doing? If you keep looking, they're going to find something. She said, bury it away. So it's only a couple of years ago that I've started mentioning it, but I've been healthy ever since. So I think sometimes, we, as you said, you have to listen within, because you talked about eating, negative thoughts, checking in with your body and eating, because a lot of us emotionally eat. And you spoke about sugar, and I think you saw on the reel, I'm in the sugar capital of Australia, and I had to Google because I was overwhelmed just driving for miles and miles and miles with sugarcane. And then when I only put a tiny note of, how many tons are sent out from Australia and Brazil and globally, it's like so much sugar, you
Wow.
know.
Wow. I didn't realize that Australia was such a producer of sugarcane.
I didn't realize till I was in the fields.
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have so many clients who come to us for weight loss in particular.
yeah,
And sugar is the first thing that I ask them to reduce. And they usually
yeah.
don't believe that is an issue. So they're usually surprised by it. But also, all the other elements around us, what our family life is like, what our work life is like, how we manage our stress, what our just lifestyles like. Most folks they just aren't moving around enough. They're eating way too much, and they're eating way too much of the foods that they think will help them to stay awake temporarily. And so we're on the same page about reducing sugar.
Great. And could you mention some of them are overweight? Can you tell us, like for the listeners, what's a typical session with you? Do you do one-on-one? And obviously you said you got 10 staff. If I was to come to you or someone else, what are the main reasons and what are programs that you've got for them?
Sure, sure. All of our programs start with an initial intake. So you call up or you walk by or you find us online at kineticsnj.com, and or you send us a text, which is also on our website, and you say, hey, I'm interested in becoming healthy. Most people, they are quite vague on that initial call, or that initial outreach. They want to be healthy, they want to be stronger. And it's not until they come in for that appointment or they have their Zoom consultation where we really spend 30 minutes talking about what made them call at the time that they called. I ask quite a bit of questions about their health background, what they've done for fitness in the past, and then what their top 3 goals are. I ask questions like, why haven't they been able to reach those goals up until this point. I really try to look for a full picture explanation of how they came to talk with me at that moment in time. And in doing that, I can make a proper recommendation. Sometimes the recommendation is for them to begin training with us. If they've got a healthy body, but they want to better manage their weight, they want to improve their strength, they're looking to improve their numbers in terms of blood pressure or cholesterol. These are all clients that we see frequently. But sometimes the challenges are bigger challenges, and they're outside the scope of what we do. For example, if a client has a previous injury that hasn't been managed by a physician or a therapist, or they are struggling with their nutrition in a way that requires professional help, during that intake, we'll talk a lot about whether or not our facility is the right place, or if they should go somewhere else first and then come back to us. What I really love about how we interact with clients is everybody's moving so fast, and it's very difficult to hear and be heard. And so we carve out that 30 minutes so that we can see them and hear them and make sure that what we set up for them is actually going to be something that gives them success. Most clients who come to us who are healthy, they can get some positive results, see changes in their bodies within 3 months, as long as they're consistent and they're willing to do the work, especially the work of shifting their mindset around food. This is so important. It's 80% of the weight loss picture, but it's also 80% of the mindset picture. You really have to decide that this is what you want. And maybe it's 100%. Maybe I'm misspeaking, because you need 100% of your mind to be in it, and then the other percents for your body and your actions to follow through. And so they come to do their intake, and then they have an initial in-person consultation where we physically move, or we do that over Zoom. There are many clients who are not in state with us. So we have national clients and they never set foot in the studio, but Zoom is amazing. And so we facilitate or we train via Zoom. After that initial consultation where we have do their assessment, then together the client and I, or the trainer, we help them figure out what the next steps are. And so that's what a normal intake process is like for us.
Wow, it's great. You covered a lot there, and you obviously work holistically, look at the whole picture, and you make tailor-made programs. And like you said, we're living in a fast-paced world. We're go, go, go. And it's about allowing ourselves the gift of time to stop and slow down. I know when I do Reiki or used to see clients for massage, etc., I would do a consultation minimum 30 minutes first, because it's allowing them to sit down and hear what they're saying, but most importantly, be heard by a professional. And that professional can pick up on, like yourself, on what their true needs really are. So it's wonderful. And it's great that you're doing the sessions on Zoom as well. So globally, people can sign up with you as well. And for people who would like to start out as a personal trainer, because you're so successful, what tips would you give them?
Sure. So an individual who wants to go into personal training as a career, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure. So the first thing I would say is make sure that you're entering the career for the right reasons. So sometimes what we want for ourselves is one thing, but you have to be able to deliver that thing to someone else. So being a personal trainer is not about you being in shape. It's about you being able to take an individual from one place of fitness to another place. So just because you go to the gym or you eat healthy doesn't mean you could actually coach someone else to do that. So anyone thinking about being a personal trainer should make sure that they're doing it because they want to help someone else. The second thing I would say is find a reputable place for schooling that book knowledge matters and experience matters. And so the program that you choose should have a clinical component or an internship requirement, as well as a lot of these places do self-study, or some places do in-classroom study, but to make sure that that clinical component is there, because to read about someone who has challenges with their knees and contraindicated movements, to read about it is one thing, but to actually interact with that client and have to manage the individual's emotional state of wanting to do whatever you're asking them to do, but physically not being able to do it, that you need the skill to be able to manage the individual, also to understand biomechanics and how to adjust that exercise so it's done safely. And then the last thing that I would recommend is that the person should make sure that they have done their due diligence in terms of where they want to be in terms of training. Do they want to work for themselves? Do they want to work for a facility? And be able to answer why. I've seen tons of people get into personal training and not understand that you should actually work for someone first so that you gain a bunch of experience with customer service. What does it mean to be a trainer? It means that you're dealing with customers. That's just one component. It means that you understand, basic biomechanics, and you can cue exercises appropriately. But then there's also, the sort of business component. We do a lot of, marketing, online and offline in order to stay relevant, a lot of continuing education. So a person coming into the industry shouldn't be naive to the various components of personal training, and they should be flexible and willing to work for a facility first so that they get enough experience underneath their belt that they could go into that industry and be successful.
Wow, those are three very amazing points, which I'm sure you could apply to all businesses as well. And even it's like being a detective and knowing, exactly what's going on and being alert of what's happening around you and having an open heart and be willing to learn, because, a lot of people, like you say, you can read a book, you can do be a gym junkie, but to actually be in the presence of another being and take them from A to Z is a completely different story. And even like when you mentioned earlier, in your initial consult with a client, maybe they don't need your services yet, but to have that awareness, you should see a physio, osteopath, a sports doctor, this, that, or the other. And it's wonderful to hear that you're so thorough with everything and all those great tips. But I just want to talking about success and business, because personal training is one business, whether you are employed or working for yourself. But you actually have had this building for 14 years and you've got 10 staff. So how do you juggle the staff? And for people who want to start up their own business with an employer, the personal trainers, what tips would you give them? What are your success tips?
Sure. It's what I was mentioning before. There are a lot of people who enter the fitness industry who want to be entrepreneurs. And I think this is totally a wonderful thing. But I do think that you have to go in with your eyes wide open. And so when I entered the fitness industry, I was working full-time for a university. I had worked at that university for 10 years as an accountant. Now I have a degree in biology and I have a degree in accounting. And I had decided I was teaching traditional West African dance. I was dancing with a company and I was asked to teach. And I had no idea if I would if I would enjoy teaching. But it turns out I had 40 people sign up for my class and I loved it. And that really was the beginning of me teaching and coaching. Prior to that, I had no desire to train or coach in any way. Well, though that single class turned into several styles of teaching fitness. And then eventually that became one-on-ones. I first sublet space. So I shared space with another person. And then when I grew out of that, I was still working full time. So I was working full time, 9 to 5, and I was training and working in my business from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. I did this every day for 1 year. And even before I had a facility, I was training out of the trunk of my car. So I handled all of these things in stages. And so what I would say to anyone who is an entrepreneur and wants to be in the business of fitness, it really depends on where you enter. There are individuals who get in because they want to train and they want to actively work with clients. And then there are ones that just want to pay for the business to exist. So the first thing is to figure out how you want to enter the business of fitness. Are you just an investor or are you working in the business? For me, I was working in the business because I wanted the exchange with clients. I was really great at that. After I sublet space, then I had my first facility, which combined fitness and yoga. And then COVID happened. Then I opened a second studio in the same town that my yoga studio was in. So I had 2 spaces. They were sister spaces. COVID happened, I closed one facility and I kept the other one open, and that's where we are right now. My greatest lesson in anybody wanting to open a fitness business, to do your research, to make sure you understand where you're entering in. Are you going to actively train? Or are you just going to invest? And then to give a lot of thought to how you're going to make that business successful. A lot of time goes into marketing. A lot of time goes into self-study about of what I want, but also working with my staff. How do you manage a staff? Is it just going to be you? I got to the point where it couldn't have just been me. I really needed help with that. And so I am constantly learning. I am a student of my life. And so anybody coming into this industry should be a student of their lives and just be certain about the direction that they want to go in.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And just one quick question before we wind up. If there was one thing you could do to change the world, what would it be?
Sure, I would continue to produce work like I'm producing right now. I'm working on a second book. I am gonna really enjoy that first international talk that I'm doing, and being able to just spread my wings in that way. And I look forward to more films. And so producing the work that sits right in my soul is what I believe that what I want to do. But for each individual, I believe that we're all here for a purpose. So you have to produce the work that is sitting in your soul.
Fabulous. Thank you. And I've put in the chat box all the links to your website, your documentary and book. And for people who watch the replay, please put some questions. And follow the advice of the lovely Metra. You know, it's so important for all of us to look holistically, keep our bodies moving, eat a healthy diet, have a healthy mind, watch our thoughts, and be of service, you know,
Oh,
be of service to others.
thank you so much
So
for having me on your show. I so appreciate it, and appreciate you and the work that you're doing to transform lives. So thank you so much.
thank you. And I appreciate all that you're doing. And please keep shining. You're such an inspiration for us all.